PEP Radio is a part of the Pennsylvania Equality Project that plays music, news, and weather, actively advocating for the LGBTQ+ and disabled since 2024.
PEP Radio, available on Live 365, Roku, Alexa, and at paquality.com.
Here at Gay SA Radio, we're very happy to welcome the Othering podcast to our airwaves. Catch the show every Thursday at noon CAT, bringing fresh voices and compelling conversations straight to you.
Head over to gsaradio.stream to find out how you can tune in and become part of our family. Don't miss it, only on Gay SA Radio, where you are family.
Gay Hive Magazine, all about the buzz of content for our community. Our content is like no other. It's all about being real, honest, and raw.
We're always looking for new reoccurring content for the magazine and regular content writers for our website. Gay Hive is currently seeking sponsors. Email hushmagazine001@gmail.com for details.
Gay Hive Magazine, all the buzz.
One man and one woman join forces to rid the world
What are you doing?
of inequality and fascism.
Seriously?
I'm trying to do a promo here.
For whom? What are you doing?
Welcome to the Othering Podcast with Mike and Dory.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you all?
Good.
All right, today we are talking to Melissa Parker. Melissa is a plural, queer author and trauma survivor. They serve as the clinical director of Center Psychotherapy based in Massachusetts and are trained in psychedelic-assisted therapies through MAPS/Lycos, you'll have to explain that one, Fluence, as well as California Institute of Integral Studies. Melissa also has a leadership role for Healing Options for Post-Traumatic Experiences, known as HOPE, dedicated to expanding access to healing resources for trauma survivors with a focus on survivors of historically excluded communities. In addition to all of that, they live at home with their wife, Amanda, 3 cats, Harriet, Sister Moon, and Mouse, and their chosen family. Welcome, Melissa. It's great to have you.
Yes, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for being here with us. And I would like to ask, what is the Lycos thing? I understand a little bit, but it's kind of hard to...
So I included both because there was a change a few years ago when the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies kind of popped off a public benefit corporation, which was Lycos. So a lot of the associations now, folks who didn't know MAPS back in the day, now know it as Lycos. So I do list both as training resources. I was a trainee just as some of these changes were coming down the pike.
How much do you love psychology?
Oh, it's...
I think you have to love it to be in that field.
It's a complicated relationship. Quite honestly, as a psychiatric abuse survivor, as a therapy abuse survivor, as somebody who's done a pretty deep dive into the origins of the field of psychology. It's multi-layered. I do love it. I love the work I do. I love the clients I serve. I love the colleagues I work with. I love all that stuff. And it's also a very complicated relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for a bit there, Mike was studying mental health counseling, and I have gone back and forth in my head for years of wanting to possibly be a therapist. But at the same time, like, all of that and being, cognizant of how I react to other people's pain and things like that. And I would imagine that it would be difficult for me because I feel everybody's pain. And even if I've never experienced it, I still feel their pain. And I just feel like maybe I wouldn't be the best of therapists because I would be crying with you. And, kind of hysterical with you or things like that because I'm sharing with you. I don't know, but it's just, it is such a fascinating but yet so hard field of study.
It truly is. You know, I have a rule as a therapist. I don't cry first. I don't cry harder. And I try to stop first. But I absolutely do cry with people when there's something to cry about. Just like I laugh with people and joke with folks, just like we share the good stuff. The tears also matter. It doesn't make you a bad therapist to feel. It would actually be really frightening.
Right.
I think if there were therapists who were unaffected by the work they do. You know, the helplessness, sometimes, especially these days, being a trauma therapist, it's really daunting, mostly because of situations beyond our control that are playing out while a bunch of survivors are watching them. All the survivors are watching them. But I do try to kind of work with the helplessness by being as competent and attuned and just kind of dedicated to my work as possible. That helps. I can feel like I'm doing something, even if some days I'm sitting there wondering, okay, so what am I doing? The world's completely on fire, and I have this little thimble of water. And
and you put it so eloquently and beautifully and perfectly that it does kind of sometimes feel like everything is on fire, yourself too, and you've only got a thimble's full of air or liquid to just kind of keep going. And how, when you get in those moments of where you just have that thimbleful, what is it that you would do to kind of bring yourself back to the, full body? Kind of, if you get what I'm asking, I think.
Yeah. It depends on the day, quite honestly. The news, everything going on in the world has made it really challenging in the past couple of weeks. But I also remind myself that the folks I work with are really strong. And I'm not saying this like we should be rewarding or complimenting trauma survivors for taking a hit really well. But just because they are just intrinsically very strong people and they survived their experiences before meeting me. And they're going to do just fine, hopefully, for meeting me and for knowing me. And also, it's not my job to fix. I can't fix this. Even if I could, I would be denying the folks I sit with the opportunity to do their own work. So it's not all on me. And when I think sometimes that, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to get this right, I have to whatever, I think sometimes that's my internalized ableism coming in the role of a therapist and thinking, I'm supposed to fix this, I'm supposed to know. And it's like, no. In actual reality, there's no way I could fix it. There's no way I could know. I can accompany folks, I can be with, but it's not my job to be in that position, and I shouldn't get confused in that direction. I think that could be really destructive.
Yeah. So as a trauma survivor, I would imagine hearing the level of trauma that other people have is rather difficult for you, in the sense that it basically kind of brings back memories and kind of reignites some things that you may not want reignited. How do you kind of deal with that?
Well, that's not my experience.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. I decided to become a therapist when I was about 33. I think I started college about 33 or 34. We're not great with linear time.
Me neither.
But because this is something that we're very aware of, we became very aware of our past trauma, of our internal system, and of our reality. And it actually made sense to us to just go head first into it in the support of other people. We don't really get triggered by hearing other people's trauma. Not that we're hardened to it, not that we don't care, not that anything bad is going on, but just we know that this is a huge part of our world. We know that people are abused constantly in many different ways, most of the ways that are considered to be, socially normal.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
this country is founded on trauma.
Yes.
And we've continued playing out this trauma ever since day one. So it's not a shock, it's not a trigger. It's just kind of reality, unfortunately.
That's what breaks my heart the most. It's just that for everybody, all of us, that not only our country was founded on such horrible trauma, but that sometimes we don't always get to see other people's trauma because we get removed from it. And it breaks my heart knowing that some people never get the chance to have the happiness of at least, that moment of clarity and calmness that sometimes eludes us, because as we become more aware of not just what's going on in our own lives and everyone else's lives, that sometimes if you don't have that moment of reprieve, moment of some breath, it kind of, at least for me, seems like it would drag me under a lot of times. And that's what happened to me before, is that I was, feeling all of this anger and pain because so many people are in pain. And it's like, I can't do anything to fix it all. And for a long time, I felt like it was on me to fix it, that I needed to fix it. There's got to be something I can do to fix it. And kind of hitting that point and realizing I am not the whole world, and that I can't fix everybody's problems. I can just do something to make sure that I'm still around for my family, my friends, and, future friends. And that sometimes gets muddled, though, still.
Yeah.
And, that pain of trying to, I got to remember that I'm just one person and I can do great things, but I need to rely on other people too. And, sometimes that, I think, is the biggest issue, is that we have to learn to rely on other people. And that's, I think, where a lot of, at least for me, my trauma came through. Hi, kitty.
That's Mouse of the
Hi, Mouse.
Yeah. Yes.
He's adorable.
It's a gray cat walking on the couch. He looks a lot like our cat.
Yes, just like our Ash.
Yeah. Well, let's see if he'll say hello. He, like most cats, everything is on his terms.
Oh, of course.
Like being picked up. But here we are. Say hello, Mouse.
He's
I have a small
beautiful
gray cat who is looking down in my arms. He's refusing to look at the screen or the camera.
He's refusing to look at us, but he's beautiful. And I wanted to ask you about your point where you said that it's not on you. When did you make the distinction of I can only do so much and that it's not on me and it's not my fault or my job to change everybody, just guide them?
I think a lot of that, it's kind of a mix, right? We got some parts of that. Oh, and I go back and forth between using plural pronouns and singular I pronouns. I'm just one member of the DID system. So sometimes I speak on behalf of all of us. Sometimes I don't. But I think that goes back to starting in my own therapy in my adult life, seeking therapy as somebody with DID. There's a lot of weird ideas about what DID is, what people with DID are capable of. I mean, just flip on Netflix and you'll see what the world thinks about us, right? We're either pathetic waifs or we're like axe murderers or we're both.
Yes.
Isn't that cool? Right. So I'd be in therapy, just trying to talk to this person I'm paying to help me, and they're just totally not getting it and trying to tell me what to do and what I should do and all of this stuff. And it was kind of okay, this smells wrong. This isn't what I'm here for. This isn't helpful. This isn't even respectful. It's not even competent. Right. And then, so I think I got some of it from that experience. And then just from different psychedelic experiences that I've had, where I've just kind of tapped into, I guess, our truest reality, for lack of a better term, and just realizing that, we're not in charge of each other, or we shouldn't be in charge of each other. We don't get to define somebody else's experience or reality or any of that stuff. It's just impossible to kind of reach in there and presume that you know better than the person you're sitting with about who they are and what they need.
And that is beautiful. You said it perfectly.
Yeah. So when we get overwhelmed sometimes, like now, being a trauma therapist and a trauma survivor, and all this Epstein stuff and all of the violences that are happening that they're calling immigration. And it's just war. It's just violence. It's just white supremacy unbridled, playing it out on the main stage. Everybody's seeing it and nobody can do shit about it, apparently, right? So when we start to feel helpless in that context, it's a little different, because on one hand, oh my God, right? Just what can we do? How many of us would it take to do a thing? I don't know. But then, as a therapist, just to zoom it in, still, this isn't something that I have the right to presume that I have any authority over for anybody else. I don't know what's going on, just like, we have close friends. I'm sure you guys all have close friends. You've known them for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And there's still parts of them that you don't know.
Yep.
That's not a bad thing. There's always this part of ourselves that's just for us.
Yeah.
So knowing that this is true, how the hell would I have the nerve or the right to try to fix somebody else or somebody else's life?
That's a great attitude to have, a great way to think about it.
And thank you for that, because I think so many times that we get into this, like, we're going to be adults now, and you hit that stage and you're supposed to know what you're going to do. You're supposed to have everything figured out. And society tells you, well, you're in charge of everyone else around you, and you got to make sure that they don't do this or they don't do that. And it's daunting, especially as a female, because it's like a lot of times put on us as females to be the mother to every single person that is around us.
Yeah. And as somebody who's many, right? We are a plural system. We are a non-binary plural system. We wear so many different hats internally and externally. And the thing is, it's never really about us anyway. We just like to think it is. But that's like really freeing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about us. We don't have to do the thing. The trick is trying to remember that we don't have to do the thing and not doing the thing.
And that's, I think, the key to becoming an adult is not that you have to do everything or you can't do anything, but you have to realize that some aspects you can control. Some things you'll never, ever control, no matter what.
Yeah.
And both are okay. And I think the way that, especially because, boomers and all these generations that they love to pit us against, as they age and as, movies age, TV ages, all of that showed us that, this is exactly how society's supposed to be. This is man, this is woman, and, you can't change, you can't look anything but like man or woman, and all of these constraints. And as we've aged, we've realized these are ridiculous constraints, for one. And how we feel about ourselves can change at any given point, because we're constantly growing, we're constantly learning, at least we're supposed to be. And if you think you've got it 100% perfect right now, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're missing out on some beautiful things that can come your way. And I say a lot of this because also growing up, I remember watching this movie called Sybil. Yep.
Yeah.
And
good old Sally Field.
yes, great actress, love her. But it always bothered me because I felt like it was so cut and dry, where they had all of these different personalities, and that's how they kind of portrayed it, was that it's just different personalities, not real people. It's one person and multiple, just different sides of the same coin. And they just go to therapy and then voila, they're fixed. And as a kid, that's what I thought it was supposed to be, was that therapy was, okay, you have something wrong with you, you go, you talk it out, and within 2 sessions, you should be fine and fixed. And when I first went to my first therapist, and I realized that not only were they the wrong fit, which I thought, you're supposed to, you get the right fit immediately. And, all of these things, it seems, silly to think that way. But when you don't go to therapy until you're in your, late 30s type of thing, you don't know what to expect other than what you've seen or heard people say. And it always sounded like you find the right therapist immediately and you have a couple of sessions and there you go.
Oh, yeah. If only.
Yes.
That'd be nice.
And there is this tension, there's huge tensions these days between learned experience therapists, who are therapists who don't endorse having lived experience in any one particular mental health concern, especially in the DID world, and then, lived and learned experience therapists, folks who have learned by being and by going to school. And it seems like in the learned experience community, there's a lot of rigidity and a lot of ideas that really do impose a false reality on the lives of folks who have lived experience. And there's the idea that, yes, if you are a good patient, if you show up for therapy, if you do your therapy homework, whatever the hell that is, if you do all of these things, then you will be sane and you will be fine at the end of it all. But we're not that simplistic as human beings. And don't get me wrong, I think therapy helps. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone into terminal student loan debt
Right.
to go to school. I think it does help, but I don't think it's the only thing. And I don't even think it's always the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a guide, a help. It's not the
Yeah.
answer. Yeah.
And
It's something that will help you work on a thing that's maybe keeping you from being who you want to be or how you want to be.
Mhm.
It will help you find ways of resolving and living with trauma
Right.
and the effects of trauma. But it doesn't take away your experiences. It doesn't poof, make everything better. There's no tidy little wrap up with a bow at the end of it all. Like in the movie Sybil, right? She did her therapy and she did what the psychiatrist told her. It was a very paternalistic treatment model that I do have issue with. And then after a measure of time, she was fine. And oh my gosh, she even became a psychiatrist herself.
Yeah.
And
I remember when I started with my current therapist, she kept asking, so what do you want in the end of this? I'm like, well, I want to be
Yeah.
happy. I see her for depression. I'm like, well, I just don't
Yeah.
want to be depressed anymore. And she nicely told me, well, that's not exactly how this works. There's more to it than that. I mean, she didn't say it in those words, but that's basically what she meant. And yeah, the more
Yeah.
I've seen her, the more I've talked to her, the more I kind of understand it's not a matter of just she tells me the answer.
Right.
It's a process.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think it can be a good process. It sounds like you have a good therapist. So that's
Finally.
nice.
Yeah.
yes, it took a while. But the thing is,
Yeah.
is that you're told you're supposed to just, oh, well, something's bothering you, go talk to somebody, you're healed. And so much of my life was like TV and movies told me this is how it's supposed to be. This is what high school looks like, or this is what work will look like. And you're supposed to have all these friends and all of these things. And because I didn't get those experiences, and turns out I'm neurodivergent, so I was thinking literally, it was really depressing and like disappointing to realize that life was nothing like a lot of those things. And
Yeah.
also like finding that inner strength that I didn't realize I had. Because yes, we can survive a lot of trauma. Some of us can survive unheard of, ridiculously horrible trauma.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. And some of us can't, and both are valid. And sometimes our minds get in our way more than anything. And you have to keep finding that right person that not only listens, but guides you. And it kind of helps you understand that the point isn't just to blab it all out and then you're happy. And I think that therapy kind of should be like his therapist or my current therapist, where they said, you won't be 100% happy because I can't do that for you. And I think that's where a lot of those interesting articles or movies and TV shows kind of keep coming back to, is showing, oh, well, it'll be perfect if you just go say hi. And now you won't be murderously interested or, any of those things. You won't want to hurt people because you'll be just tiptoeing through the daisies. And like you said, it's very complicated because our brains are complicated. And, what somebody can go through might just roll off their back, no problem. And another person could go through the exact same thing and it destroy them. And I think so much of what our society loves to do is put us in those boxes but it's got to be easy to fix.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of our society and a lot of the focus on mental health is to make us better workers, right?
Yes.
It's to get people able to be more productive, whatever the hell that is. It's to get people to get along in society, not make waves, let things happen as they happen, and to do things that make money for people who have more money.
Right.
It's not actually about wellness or peace or happiness. It's about functionality.
And thank you for saying that, because that is 100% what it is to a lot of people. when they think of, well, just go to therapy. And it's to, oh, well, you'll come out and you'll be a better worker. But
just go fix it.
Yeah.
Just go fix it. Stop being so sad. Stop being out because you're sad. Stop not showing up at parties because you're sad. Stop making other people uncomfortable.
That's the key.
Because you're sad.
Is that it makes other people uncomfortable. And we have to live with our feelings. Because when we don't, that's when the horror happens. When a lot of times wars and, all of the different horrors that come with wars, I honestly think that a lot of times it's because these people are deeply unhappy with what they have and they don't know how to make themselves happy because they've been told, just make yourself happy. Instead of realizing that happiness isn't a permanent place, that it comes and goes and it depends on what's going on in your life, and that sometimes being sad is okay too. And, having depression doesn't mean that we're defective. Or, having issues dealing with trauma does not make us defective people. That makes us, I think, even more human because we recognize it.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the discourse that at least those of us in the lived experience community are trying to have with the learned experience community. Is that, especially in terms of DID, it is not the dissociation that is the problem. It is not the multiplicity or the plurality that's the problem. It's the trauma that made it necessary for us to grow this way. But dissociation, especially in terms of what's considered DID, is adaptive. But instead, in the mainstream, it's largely stigmatized while people are talking out of the other side of their mouth that it's not, we shouldn't have stigma. There's an anti-stigma campaign going on at McLean Hospital, which is the famous psychiatric hospital a town over from where I'm sitting right now, where it's an anti-stigma campaign for mental health, and they include people with DID, and that's all lovely. But the problem is McLean Hospital and members of their faculty have seriously stepped out and transgressed and aggressed towards the DID community over the past several years. So on one hand, the voices from the mainstream are saying, oh, this shouldn't be stigmatized. And then on the other hand, they're enacting stigma and worse. So it's a little confusing,
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's where more harm comes in, because you look to these, certain people that are saying this should be like A, B, and C, and you agree with it, and you're like, okay, that sounds great. And then when you find out that they're like, well, this doesn't make sense, this is silly, and they disparage it, it hurts me.
Yeah.
Because then you feel like, well, why did I listen to you then? And who do I go to if you're disparaging this?
Right. And therein lies the problem. And this is why a lot of the time of therapy is anywhere from unhelpful to downright abusive.
Yep.
So what made you decide at the age of 32, 33 to go into therapy? Was it from your lived experience and what you experienced in therapy yourself as a patient got you interested, or were you always kind of interested?
We just glitched.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I saw that.
You just said.
Okay. What was it that made you decide to go into therapy at the age of 32, 33? Was it from your lived experience wanting to help others in similar situations, or was it something you've always kind of wanted to be when you grew up, so to speak?
Oh, hell no. I never wanted to be a therapist.
Good answer.
We actually had a very great first career as a hairdresser and a makeup artist.
Okay.
But that had started to run its course. We were starting to just move in different directions. About that time, we started using psychedelics and were also diagnosed with DID. So it was kind of a cataclysm of a whole bunch of things. And me as me, I kept hearing a voice in my head saying, we're going to go to school. We're going to become therapists. This is going to happen. And I was like, nah, I'm just crazy. I just, have to get sane and this will stop. I know now that the person whose voice I was hearing was a member of my internal system. Took a little while for that to clear up. But so I guess some of us in the system always kind of knew. And I think like a lot of people's lived experience, we came into the field because our experiences of therapy were just such crap.
Yeah.
It was just such a racket. so degrading, really, dehumanizing, and also just ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about where the field of psychology comes from, right, we're talking about eugenics.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the standards that we still adhere to, a lot of the assessment tools, all of this stuff, this comes from straight white cisgendered men of a certain social class from hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Right.
And this is where everything comes from. You know, as a therapist, it's horrifying sometimes to go to trainings and just to hear the shit these people are saying. And I'm like, oh, that's why I spent so many years in really bad therapy, because I probably saw a therapist who saw this trainer, you know. Years ago, Janina Fisher was giving a training in the Boston area. Janina Fisher is like basically one of the founders of sensory-motor psychotherapy. Really big deal. Undergrad, graduate school. I quoted a lot of her stuff in papers. She made a lot of sense on paper, you know? So I was like excited. I'm like, great, there's this training. I'm going to go see this person who's done all these really smart things that are like so helpful. Well, I went to the training, and do you know that this woman spent like all day basically making jokes about her clients, especially about her clients with DID. Like,
Wow.
it was just one after another after another after. Like, I looked around this auditorium of like 300 or 400 people, just horrified. Everybody's like sitting there laughing. Meanwhile, I'm keeping an audit of all the bullshit that's coming from the podium. And after the training, I reached out both to the sponsoring organization, which was called Nested, the New England Society for the Study of Trauma and Dissociation, which is now defunct. And I also reached out to the trainer, and I said, hey, this is really messed up. And I thought they'd want to know. Well, guess what? They didn't.
No.
But it was just like if I had walked into that room, I might have thought I was at a comedy show. And I might have thought I was at a comedy show where somebody really hated trauma survivors. It was amazing. I mean, this is just what we're up against. I've been to other trainings, you know, I'm EMDR trained. And when I took my EMDR training, you know, there was this piece of paper in the packet. And I had to sign a piece of paper that said I didn't have a dissociative disorder in order to be eligible to take the training, right? This is in Massachusetts in like 2016. So that was easy enough. We got a system member who doesn't have DID to sign off on the paper. So we were not lying. But we took the training, and not only did we take the training and do really well, but we were identified as somebody who really kind of emotionally had our shit together. So we were pulled from like the audience, from the classroom, to like do demos, because we were so seemingly well adjusted. And we're sitting there going, oh my God, if these people only knew, you know? But I think that this is why therapy just doesn't work for a lot of people, because it's not about the client, it's about the therapist. We're seeing this more and more with like the increase of everything having to be evidence-based. Everything have to be manualized, everything having to have a certain protocol. This is for the therapist's protection more often than not. It's not to the client's benefit to have somebody so rigid and to have such rigid interventions utilized in therapy.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. I mean, the first person that I saw, like, I hit it off with them, and then they disappeared. I don't know what happened to them. And then, like, the second person, they weren't bad, but, like, I felt like I couldn't quite be myself in front of them. And I thought that it was on me. And then when I finally got to my current therapist, who's like rock star, I realized it wasn't me, that it was just their demeanor, and it just didn't match with mine, because it's important to be able to be yourself. Otherwise, therapy doesn't work either. And if you have somebody that you just can't vibe with, it doesn't work. And, you know, being able to talk to so many people has been therapeutic to me as well. And, you know, sharing those common stories of trauma or pain or even happiness makes a huge difference. And I think that that's where we need to kind of converge on, is when people are able to talk to each other, or just one-on-one, not necessarily in, okay, so tell me about today, and, you know, dissecting it all, just talking can make such a wonderful difference. We need to kind of steer psychology away from eugenics and away from a rigid thinking. Because
we do.
Rigid thinking does not work for everybody. And, you know, our brains aren't rigid.
No, our brains are freaking amazing.
Yes.
They're really cool things that we have behind our faces. They're really neat. and they can do so much. And I guess that's part of why we're so drawn to working with psychedelics. Right now, ketamine is the only legal psychedelic adjacent substance, and that's what we use in our practice. But we're also trained in working with MDMA and psilocybin and a bunch of other substances, and just can't wait until hopefully the day happens that this is actually possible, because psychedelics offer us the opportunity to get to the root of our distress.
Yes.
They really just kind of bring us right into where we need to be, and kind of suspend. Most psychedelics do suspend typical brain functioning that usually keeps us away from being at the root of our distress.
Yeah. And it makes sense to use them like that. And, I had read recently that they had discovered, I don't know, if may not have been recent, I don't know. Anyway, that they were using psychedelics on people with PTSD from war, and that they were responding beautifully to it, that they were able to get, more healing, because they were able to then stop their whole brain from saying, oh, you can't say those things, or you can't do those things. And because sometimes, like I said before, we get in our own way when we're talking about things, because we're either afraid of saying something that might be hurtful, or might just sound like we're, completely insane, or whatever it is that is making us stop. That inhibition can make a huge difference for so many people. And we need to keep looking at that, because too many people are hurting.
Yeah. And I think one thing that psychedelics can also do is just, I think, increase and really deepen feelings of self-compassion and self-understanding, and also create more internal space. I mean, I remember a really early experience we had as a system where we were just sitting and kind of looking down into this pit, of course, in ordinary consciousness. It wasn't really there, but it was there in the truest form of our consciousness. And just looking at this pit and looking at our lives and looking at everything that happened to us. And this was just really awful shit, and decades of it, just looking at it and going, oh, okay, that's why we're that way. And it wasn't that easy, but it was that simple. It was like, okay, so this makes sense. We're not crazy. We're in a lot of pain, and that makes living hard. That makes it hard to want to live. But just looking at this really expansively and just going, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's just that internal gentleness. There's just that internal space where you're not crowded, where you're not just ready to eat your own head because everything is too much. But where everything just opens up and you go, okay, got to figure out a few things, but this is doable.
Sometimes,
and that,
I'm sorry.
And that doesn't mean everything's always been great or easy or whatever, but it just means that things have been possible.
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference in being able to relax and sometimes see the abstractness and also the depth. You can't always see it when you're sitting there in it, or when you're trying to remember what happened and you're trying to talk about it, but sometimes the words just won't come. But being able to then have a psychedelic, because sometimes they are used to kind of make you feel like you're removed from that, and be able to describe it how you saw it, and then be able to, I guess you could say, remove it from yourself, so that it's not you necessarily, but it is you. I know that doesn't make sense, but it's to kind of...
It does. It makes sense to you. I mean, I think we all have our own sense, our own reality.
Yeah, we do.
And I think that's definitely, one way to go for sure.
I think I get in my own way a lot of times talking to my therapist. I have a big problem.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I don't talk much. Everyone knows that. I'm a pretty quiet
You don't
person.
say.
I'm a pretty quiet person to begin with, but even in therapy, I kind of have that same problem where it's almost like I'm afraid of what she'll think or something. And it's not that she's bad. This is a me problem, not her. But it's just, I get in my own way. So I can definitely see where those psychedelics would come in handy, would help for sure. So in your initial process, did you seek out psychedelics, or did someone recommend that to you? How did you find that path?
It just kind of happened.
Just happened.
And it just kind of happened at a point where something really had to give.
Right.
Or I don't know if I would still be here if I didn't have those experiences. And if I would have survived my experiences, I don't know what type of person I'd be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what my life would look like right now if I hadn't had those very crucial, very needed, very miraculous experiences. And again, it's not like it fixed everything. It's not a magic bullet. It's not anything more than what it is. And what it is pretty amazing. And I really do want it for other people who want it as well.
So
I got really lucky.
And I'm glad.
I don't know much about psychedelics. I heard about them the first time when I was listening to the Huberman Lab podcast like 10 years ago, or I don't know if it's 10 years, but like 6 years ago, a long, long time ago. What sort of like, how does that work? Like, do you have to take it a certain number of times at a certain point, or do you just take it when you're in therapy? I mean, like, is there a structure to it?
So in psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, yes, absolutely. Psychedelic-assisted therapy, specifically MDMA-assisted therapy, is a course of therapy that takes place over about 6 or 9 months. And it is a lot of preparation work. Then you have an experiential session, which is usually an all-day session. And then there's lots of integration work of integrating and exploring the experience and pulling it into ordinary consciousness. And then there's more preparation. Then you go into another experiential. And so it's a bit of a process. Ketamine-assisted psychotherapy is similar in that it's a process. It's not quite so intense. Ketamine is a shorter acting substance. And it's not, I consider it psychedelic adjacent. It's something that can give you psychedelic effects, but maybe not classically a psychedelic, kind of like cannabis, right? Cannabis can give you psychedelic effects, but it's not technically a psychedelic.
Right.
But with ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, you do the same. You do a lot of preparation. You have an experiential session. You do some integration. And the amount of experiential sessions is decided on by the client and the therapist, and the body of work, you just kind of feel it out as you go. Most people do between 3 and 6 experiential sessions, and so the body of work kind of looks like that. But everybody's a little different. Some people just do one experiential. Some people do more than one experiential. Very, very specific to the person and the situation.
That's really fascinating.
It is.
I would love to not only be able to see that, but like see the brain at the same time, like how that's working. I if it was legal, I would like open up people's heads during that and just watch how the brain functions. And I know that sounds wrong, like I'm going to go around and scalp people. I don't want to, but no. I just find the brain so amazingly, just amazing.
Yeah.
Like, just understanding that there's so much to it. This pink little thing with all of these ridges and tunnels and all of that stuff can handle and do so many things is just thrilling to me. And
it's like the coolest thing we all have, right?
Yes, it is the absolute coolest thing we have. We can use it for so many things that can be good or cool or bad. And it's all up to us. And that's what makes it even more cool, is that it's not like this hive brain like they do in horror films or things like that. And because we can all decide if we want to. And, there's cults, but outside of that, we can decide how we are. And I think that is so awesome. And how can you not want to know more about the brain and how it functions with psychedelics, and how does that help people like not get over, but just be able to deal with things that are just so amazingly awful.
Yeah. Like there's some things we're not supposed to just get over.
Yes.
Right.
And I wish people
that
would stop saying
so fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're so conditioned to think, I just have to find a way to get over it. I have to find a way to be with this in a way that's not going to destroy me.
Exactly.
And the cool thing about psychedelics is that they temporarily suspend the way that we normally think about things and normally feel things.
And that's
so that
where
we
the
have
beauty
room
comes
to
in.
make more connections. Yeah, totally.
Because understanding, even if to one person it doesn't sound like it, it's like, oh, so it was the wrong color, who cares, type of thing. But to some people it can mean a lot of things. And
Yeah.
I think that's where we also get confused, is that, again, multiple people, when you have siblings, you're usually raised pretty similar, not very much in difference. And one person can come out completely and utterly fine and be like this go-getter and doing all of these amazing things. And one could be completely devastated and can't function. And that just shows it how much the brain is a part of everything. And of course, I mean, duh, but it just shows it how that functions and changes so many different things. And then having the psychedelic added to it can help those people then step back and look at it with, I guess, more of a less emotion in it. Because I think when the emotions start coming up with whatever it is that we're experiencing is when a lot of times we start to pull back because we don't want to have to feel that. And I've read that some psychedelics are able to then make you look at something and be able to look at it as, removed from that situation and okay, yeah, that I went through that, but let me look at it a different way and figure out, okay, oh, that's why this hurts so much, or why this color bothers me, or why this smell affects me the way it does. Instead of as soon as you see it or smell it, it's like, okay, I can't handle it. And finding out those little things can make a world of difference in your depression or your anxiety. And I mean, it does for me, realizing, being able to I don't do psychedelic therapy, and I wish I did, but I do have those moments where I can honestly think, where I remove myself from that situation and can see it with a more, I guess you could say, clinical eye versus a more emotional thing. And that makes a difference for me. It makes me feel better and realize, oh, okay, this is a normal reaction to this type of trauma, or, seeing this, and that I'm not some weirdo from a different planet and just, everything is too much. And to give that beauty of being able to understand where certain things happen and why in our lives, I think is an awesome thing. And we need to do more with that.
I do. Just finding ways of holding all of the emotions and being as okay with possible about what we're feeling. Yeah.
Especially nowadays, because we're so taught that, well, you can't cry, you can't laugh, you can't smile, you can't do this, you can't do that. With our feelings, that when they do come up, it hurts so much. And if we can step back.
Yeah. And with the idea that empathy is a weakness, is a sickness, is something bad.
No.
It's not.
Not at all.
No, it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
We
need a lot more of that today in this world.
And I used to think, I used to think that my empathy was a disservice, a bad thing, because, I would get upset as a kid when my friends would be upset, and it would just hit me easily, even though I wasn't experiencing what they were going through. I would get upset, and then I would think, oh, great, I'm some weirdo, and they're going to think I am, just commandeering their pain and to make it all about me. And I wasn't. But it took me so long to realize that I closed myself off as I got older so that I wouldn't do those types of things.
Oh, yeah. We do that, don't we?
Yeah.
And we can't. And it's honestly, like, I am lucky that I am still here, because it did affect me to that level of, why am I here? Why, I'm not doing anything right. And I don't want anybody else to feel that way. You need to feel your feelings. You need to understand them. And if a psychedelic drug, and I get it now, why so many people do them, because sometimes you can't think when, you're in the throes of it. And alcohol or any type of drug can make you step back and be able to think clearly without the feelings bothering you. I get it. I just wish that those that control the drugs and what they are classified as realize that they could be used for so much good and to help so many people instead of demonizing them and throwing them out into the streets.
I mean, you mentioned alcohol, right? So that is the socially sanctioned drug that you can find on every corner that is socially acceptable. Less so these days, thanks to cannabis and changes in our society. But alcohol is the thing that shuts you down a lot of the time, or it makes you feel either like really happy for a little while and then angry and sad.
Right.
And I'm not trying to down talk it, trust me. I love a good IPA. And, it's not all bad. But out of all of the drugs, isn't it kind of weird that the one that is probably the most difficult to have a healthy relationship with, and that's the most potentially harmful, is the one that is the most acceptable, easiest to get, and easiest to admit to using?
Yeah, and that doesn't make sense.
So after...
No, it doesn't. And it's not to throw alcohol under the bus or even cannabis. All substances, I think, have their place. It's just kind of doing the assessment of how good is this for me? What is this doing for me? And I think alcohol, sure, that's fun. That's like the funnel cake at the carnival, right?
Yeah.
But I do kind of think of psilocybin and MDMA as kind of like the health food. It's like the thing that's really going to get to the root of what's going on. And maybe even make doing some of this work a little bit more enjoyable, because God forbid therapy should be enjoyable. God forbid healing should be something that we enjoy doing and want to do and kind of like doing and giggle while we're doing it sometimes.
Yes. And
I mean, it doesn't all have to be so damn serious.
Yeah.
It can't be.
No, it can't. And laughing, being able to laugh at a situation, even as horrible as it could be, sometimes that's how you heal. Is realizing, oh my God, I went through that. That is terrible, but this is funny when you're in, because there's been times, innocuous things, but there have been times when I've looked back and I've been able to laugh, and then it feels lighter. It doesn't feel like, oh, I should have said this or I should have done that anymore, because I laughed at it and it goes away, at least for me.
Or it transforms or it transmutes, right? You laugh at it, so you're laughing at maybe a different aspect of whatever the it is than you were zeroing in on in the first place.
Yeah.
So when you...
it changes the relationship.
Yes.
When you come out of the experience on ketamine or MDMA, any of the psychedelics, do you realize it's not... Like, do you feel the change? What, you've come back to reality, so to speak? And does it kind of, I don't know, make it worse? Or do you kind of... Are you able to sit with what you went through while you were in the experience?
Everybody's a little different. Folks I've sat with and talked about all have different experiences. I can only really speak to our personal experience.
Right.
And for us, it was more like you keep a little bit of it. You keep a little bit, there's traction. And you keep that traction, and it becomes it became a part of us and how we work and how our system works and how we see things and how we do things. It shifts things. I do see, like, there's ordinary consciousness and non-ordinary consciousness, so in ordinary consciousness, where, as we all are now, presumably, maybe, I don't know. And then, and as somebody who dissociates a lot, I'm kind of always a little bit in non-ordinary consciousness, so I should not presume about anybody else. But you kind of bring out that super non-ordinary consciousness. You bring out the things that you come across. You bring out the things that you see and learn and meet and get close with. And it kind of becomes a little bit of who you are as you go forward in your life. Just like every person we've met who's been significant in our life, we carry a little piece, right? Like, maybe you make tea like your college roommate, or maybe you cuss like your grandma, or maybe, you do these things that are little bits of people. We're kind of amalgams of people who have affected us. And I think with psychedelics, it's sort of the same, that these little things kind of fit into the amalgam. And kind of shift how we see things and how we experience things. There's always that argument with my pre-psychedelic self, kind of the fear-based stuff, the scarcity mindset, going, no, you can't do that, or no, we shouldn't do that, or no, that's bad. And then the part of us that, we kind of came into contact with through psychedelic use, going, no, it's cool. Just let it play out. Just do it. See where it goes. Right. That kind of having more trust in self. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is.
How it all works. And it's fascinating.
And we should be doing more with that because,
Yes.
finding that compassion, finding that little piece of ourselves that sometimes we lose when we're fully conscious because we're worried about other people or whatever, gaining that back is, I think, honestly, a part of healing, is gaining back those pieces that you discarded or you hid away because you were afraid of something. And
Yeah, exactly.
fear is such a strong thing. And to then lose that fear and be able to embrace that part of you that you thought was wrong or whatever it was that your brain said, and then have it back, it's like, yeah, this feels really good.
It's like getting parts of yourself back that you may have lost to trauma or to depression or to anxiety or to adversity or to oppression. It's getting these parts of yourself back and also giving back the things that you're carrying that just aren't yours.
Yes. A
So-
lot.
We have to start wrapping it up, but
Oh,
before
man.
we go,
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, I know it's always too quick.
I know, right?
yes.
Before we go, I wanted to ask about your role in the HOPE organization, Healing Options for Post-Traumatic Experience. Is that separate from what we've been talking about, or is that all included with your Center of Psychotherapy work as well?
It's all part of the fabric. So Center Psychotherapy is where I work. And that's where I see clients, where I provide consultation and supervision and do all of those things. And Healing Options for Post-Traumatic Experiences, or HOPE, is kind of an offshoot of that. It was spring of 2020. Everything was exploding then too.
Yeah.
And we came into a conversation with our wife and a few close friends and colleagues and former colleagues about just how the pandemic was making it, really clear that we're all nuts. And for lack of a better term, I'm not trying to be ableist, but sometimes I would rather just use slang than the sterile words of my profession. But we were all fucking nuts back then. We're still fucking nuts. That was crazy, right?
Yep.
And talking about how there was a need for something more, being a therapist in 2020, just like in 2026, feels kind of like throwing breadcrumbs at starving people.
Yeah.
It's not enough. Talk therapy, even EMDR, which I dearly love, is not enough. Psychedelics, on the other hand, are almost, or could be almost enough. At that time, MAPS was really doing a lot of research towards getting MDMA-assisted psychotherapy passed through the FDA. MAPS always also really fucked up a lot of things in those studies, and for some very good reasons, unfortunately. MDMA-assisted psychotherapy wasn't passed through the FDA a few years ago. But at the time, in 2020, it looked like this was coming straight down the pike. So sat down with some people that I dearly love and had a conversation. And because it looked like, MDMA-assisted psychotherapy was imminent, we were talking about, well, who are the people who aren't going to have access? We all know that if you have enough money, you can pretty much get your needs met, whatever your needs are.
Yep.
But what about folks from marginalized communities, historically excluded communities? What about people with stigmatized mental health diagnoses? I would be not eligible to be a participant in any of the clinical studies that I've researched and studied as a clinician. The irony is that I could be a clinician on a research team, but I would not be eligible because I have a big, scary mental health diagnosis that's too messy and icky for mainstream therapists. So that's an irony, right?
Big one.
There's a lot of us. There's people, queer, BIPOC people, immigrants, people who have been formerly incarcerated. The folks who probably need this shit the most are the least likely to get it. So we had a conversation about starting a nonprofit in order to create access to psychedelic-assisted therapies. We started strong. It looked like things were coming down the pike, and then everything crashed and burned with MAPS and in a few other directions. And we're kind of in a bit of a holding pattern right now. We are doing some really good work in our community. We are doing community-based work, which is great. We are building relationships with other folks doing similar work. We are, we're still very much here, and we're still very much trying to figure it out. But right now, it's a tough time. There's really no legalization in sight for MDMA-assisted psychotherapy. Psilocybin might be getting decrimmed here in the next few years. Tough to tell. But right now, ketamine-assisted therapy is all that we have, and it is helpful. And we're looking for ways to fundraise and to organize and to mobilize in order to cut some of the barriers, to cut the cost barrier, the logistics barrier, some of the barriers, that have to do with people's other physical and mental health issues that would ordinarily get them bounced right out of CAP therapy.
Right.
So we're working on it. Hope right now is doing a spring event in Attleboro, Massachusetts, an Earth Day cleanup and a community potluck, and just trying to get together with people and get talking and start to have some conversations that I think will show us the way to where it is we're trying to go.
Yeah.
So, long answer to a short question.
No,
it's great.
And thank you for doing that.
Yes.
I mean, that's definitely something that we need and not something that everyone's going to think about. So it's great that you're doing that.
Yeah, 'cause I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. There was such a big psychedelic wave at the time where it just looked like everything was pretty much settled and we were going to be doing this thing. But the we wasn't really the we, It was everybody wanting to cut to the front of the line to either be on a therapy team as a clinician or to just buy their way into the therapy as quickly as possible.
Right.
And that's just too much like the macrocosm that we're living in right now to really want to be a part of it.
And it's just, I hope that, no pun intended, but I do hope that it is able to grow and that there is finally some breakthrough through the dudes so that, because the word just slipped my head right as I was about to say it. But I do hope that the FDA wakes up and, actually okays those drugs for use in that manner. Because, there's a lot of things that we would not have discovered, that we would not have realized could be used as medicine if it weren't for somebody licking a tree at one point or, chewing on some bark. Because, and as weird as that is, that's basically what happened. That's how we discovered aspirin. Somebody left out something
White
and
willow bark.
Yep, and it rotted, and that's how we discovered penicillin. So it's those things that we need. Yes, I understand that they're used for recreation, and I think part of taking it from that the awful side to the better side of using it as a way of helping people. It's going to take a bit for some people, but I hope it doesn't take as long. And I think that's kind of where a lot of people are hung up on this. But, people use it for drugs and raves and all of these things. But
maybe that's okay, too. I don't mean to give the impression that I'm prioritizing a medicalized approach to psychedelics over a social one. If we look at all of the communities on Earth since the dawn of time, right, have been using psilocybin, have been using ibogaine, have been using ayahuasca. This is all in community, and this is all not in a medical context. And this is where we're coming from. I do think that the medicalized context can be helpful, but I do want to clarify, just in case there's been any confusion, that our experiences have been what would be considered recreational. We have never accessed formal psychedelic therapy. Honestly, we couldn't afford it, first of all. And second of all, we would be deselected, let's say, from the process because DID is just too weird for most people on a good day. That in a psychedelic context, we'd be considered way too much of a liability. So I think even used recreationally, and maybe in some cases, especially used recreationally, psychedelics can be helpful. That said, we want to be careful, right? We want people to be protected. We want to make sure that there's a test kit, that people are testing their substances. We want to make sure that people aren't doing these things too much, which is a very real concern. Even though psychedelics are the least addictive of most drugs, the idea and the reality that they make you feel so good when you've been struggling for so long can really get you into trouble. It can really be like, well, why would I ever want to feel any other way?
And that's why we need to change the story on it, because so many of those are classified as, people abuse them, so we can't have it. No, if we help the people that do abuse it, because obviously there's something that's making them abuse it.
Yeah.
Let's fix and talk about the issues and, fix the issues, as whether it's access to something or whether it's because of color or whatever it is that's blocking. Fix that part. We can.
Yeah.
And then use the drugs as a means recreationally or medically so that we can maybe, get people off of opioids or get people realizing, oh, this is why I am the way I am, and make understanding. And then people can, I think, and it has been shown that when people are able to access things to make them feel better, whether it's therapy or even drugs and things like that in other countries, it's not as rampant of, drug dealing and people on the corners.
Yeah. It changes things, right? But the problem is healing has implications, just like our own personal healing, right? You do a certain amount of healing and therapy and in your daily life and realize that you can't be in the relationship you're in or can't keep the job that you're in. There are real life implications. And I think if you zoom that out in terms of legalizing psychedelics, there's implications. What is going to happen? And I'm smiling as I say this, but what's going to happen to the field of psychotherapy as we know it? What is going to happen to institutions that basically just warehouse people and watch them for 3 days and send them home? What is going to happen to big pharma as we know it with all of these meds that people are kept on for their entire lives, which I'm not down talking regular psych meds. I've taken them. They've helped me. I don't currently take them now because I just don't need to. But so this isn't down talking or trash talking psych meds, but it's like, psych meds often have very real long-term, if not permanent, health issues for people. And the same big pharma company that produces the med that creates a health issue also produces the med that helps to treat the health issue. So what's going to happen if there's a sustainable option? What's going to happen if also people decide, okay, so I'm crazy. I still don't want to go to work at that 9 to 5. I'm going to do something else. I'm not going to play in. What would happen if in our country taking psychedelics was considered normal and people did? Would we have what's going on right now playing out? Would we be so complacent as a society?
We'd probably be happier for one.
Yeah, and probably nobody really be taking this shit. This might not even be happening right now. Maybe I'm just being a little bit idealistic. I do have my moments, but
no, I think it's 100% that a lot, everything relates to everything else. And it all starts with power over women, power over people of color, power over anything that is marginalized, even though ironically we're the majorities in all the country. If you put them all together, we're the majorities.
People of global majority, absolutely. And people are acting so shocked about what's being revealed in the Epstein files right now. And it's like, come on. This has all been done to Black people in this country since day one. Now that it's happening to white people, it's suddenly shocking and a problem, and we're suddenly upset about it.
Right.
Now that it's happening to people who look like you can't deal with it. Right.
And because of that, if we could then change it to actually being happier groups of people, I think that would make a huge difference in a lot of ways. And, all of those industries that make money right now off of the medicine to fix the medicine issues would have to come up with new ways of making their money. There's ways to do things without having to suck the blood dry of everyone.
Yes, you can, I think, make money and have a very nice life and still be an ethical person. I don't think that's impossible. We're just set up so that it really seems that way most of the time.
Yes.
And it is in fact true, but I don't think that has to be true.
Right.
It doesn't have to.
No. We're out of time.
No.
I know.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I don't want to end it, but we have to.
I know.
Definitely need you back for a second.
Yes, please.
Second episode. Thank you
Feel
so
free.
much.
You know where to find me.
Yes.
Speaking of which, you want to let people know where to find you? Let everyone else know where to find you?
In what way do you mean?
Like, okay.
In the creepy way. No, like if you want them to find you on social media or find.
I don't do
anything.
a lot of social media. I show up on Instagram sometimes and comment on things. Sometimes I share cool things that my friends are doing on LinkedIn, but I really don't do social media.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So they
around
don't
a
need to
bit.
find
You
you.
could probably find me bits and pieces, but not a whole hell of a lot.
That works. All right. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
joining
much.
us.
Thank
this
you.
has been a great
Yes.
conversation.
Yes, it has.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Othering Podcast by Mike and Dory. Please like and follow us on all of your favorite social media.
The Othering Podcast is produced by LoudCore Productions, graphics by Josh, and music by Jordy James.